This is the CineSnob Podcast.
Hey there, and welcome to episode 262 of the CineSnob Podcast. I am Jerrod Kingery.
I'm Cody Villafania.
Cody, both of us went to a movie theater in San Antonio this week.
Yeah.
Both of us, for the very first time, Santikos Cibolo.
Yeah.
On the northeast side of San Antonio, on the way to Austin. I was there yesterday, having rented a theater out.
Yeah.
For my wife's birthday. We screened Back to the Future. Excuse me for my cat pops into the frame here.
Well, this was your first time. So I think we had talked about this on our show when I did this in the wake of the pandemic, where I rented a theater for basically an entire day.
Yes.
And you finally got the experience of renting out a Santikos theater.
Yeah, it was kind of a spur-of-the-moment decision we made sometime last week. I looked it up, and it was like $100 to rent the theater to screen your own Blu-ray, and you could bring 25 people. So I think we had like 19 all the way. I don't know. Very, very nice experience. Went there. I'm surprised it was 6:00 on a Saturday night that we were able to get that availability, but we popped in there, and the host, a woman named Justine, helped us quite a bit. She gave her the Blu-ray, and we had a good old time watching it, and it looks great. I don't know what kind of projector they have, but it looks awesome.
Well, it's one of those things when we used to have our series at Alamo Drafthouse. I would basically purchase the Blu-ray or take from my collection for whatever we had. And every time we were in there, I was always sitting there watching it going like, this looks really good for just being like a regular Blu-ray. It like looks and sounds fantastic when you hook it up to thousands and thousands of dollars worth of equipment, it can really shine.
Yeah, it's not I doubt it's off the rack at Best Buy what they've got in there. But yeah, it was I think one of the smaller theaters, held about, I think it had like 49 seats, nice recliner seats and everything. Really good food options there too. I haven't eaten since I've been gone from San Antonio. I haven't eaten like a meal at a Santikos theater.
Yeah.
We had the pizza that turned out really well, and it was like for movie theater food, like really reasonably priced. I loved it. But you were there for a Fathom Events screening, something we used to cover quite a bit.
Yeah. So the folks at Fathom connected me with a ticket for the Big Lebowski. I believe it was a 25th anniversary Fathom event screening.
Yeah. Wow. God, 25 years.
Yeah. And so I just got back from that, and it was a good time. I don't know how you feel about the Big Lebowski, but I'm a huge fan of the Coen brothers. I would probably say that like at least 2 of my favorite 10 favorite movies of all time are Coen brothers movies.
I mean I'm a big fan of the Big Lebowski. It was one of those that it was their first big film. It was their first film after Fargo hit really big, and at the time it was totally misunderstood.
Yeah.
But it's since become like there's so many great little moments in it. My personal favorite is when he's trying to figure out what Jackie Treehorn was writing on the notepad. Oh yeah. And he like highlights it in a pencil, and it's just a penis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's weird because like, again, like, so I would count Fargo and Inside Llewyn Davis as 2 of my 10 favorite movies ever. And so this was one where I've only seen once, actually.
Really?
Yeah, and it was at a time where I think maybe I wasn't, quite. I don't know if I wasn't ready for it or I was expecting something different. I don't know, but I hadn't seen it in probably 10 or 15 years, and so. Oh wow. Yeah, so to go back and to watch it was a good time, and it looked and sounded really good, and it was enjoyable. I think the biggest takeaways I had from this time around are that it's super funny. That the script is very, very funny, and I like when the Coen brothers work in that funny space. They don't they are able to dabble in kind of like straight comedy, and then they're able to dabble in the black comedy. And I was surprised at just like how straight comedy this thing pretty much is. That it does not get as dark as a lot of the other Coen stuff does. And the other observation was just like how great everyone is in it.
Yes.
Jeff Bridges is like perfect. Like every single thing, mannerism, line delivery, like it is a lived in character from like moment one. And that is impressive. John Goodman is really good in it, though I think that character is maybe like the one part of the movie that occasionally gets wobbly. His character is a lot,
Yeah, he's Walter, the traumatized Vietnam vet.
Yeah.
I do love when he makes his speech at Steve Buscemi's Donnie's funeral. The funeral it's such a great comedy moment with Jeff Bridges getting hit in the face with the ashes.
Yeah, and not changing facial expression as he gets hit in the face.
What was all that shit about Vietnam?
It's very, very funny, and I think I think that the couple of things I'll say about it that are on the other side of things is that I do think that it is occasionally feeling a little bit like put on. There's a little bit of try-heartedness in it.
Just get up there. Sorry.
Yeah, that I found.
Yeah, there is a lot of that. I think probably the dream sequence or whatever you would call that. Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing is it's kind of funny how much I knew of it just from seeing it once or seeing it in pop culture stuff, but also like how little John Turturro is in it and how much that character had his own spin-off movie that John Turturro made.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up. I've never seen it.
I haven't either.
And I don't really know anything about it other than it. I think it's literally just the character. Like, it's not in continuity, and it's not like I don't know if it's even sanctioned by the Coen brothers. I have no idea.
I believe that they had their permission to do it. Like, they gave their blessing for it.
I don't even know what it's called.
It's called the Jesus Rolls.
Okay, the Jesus Rolls. I mean, when did it was released rather recently, right?
Yeah,
2019.
Yeah. But that character and John Turturro is in the movie for 2 scenes, basically.
Yeah.
And it's weird that the cast of the Jesus Rolls is very interesting if you read that over.
Bobby Cannavale, Audrey Tautou, Christopher Walken, John Hamm, Pete Davidson, and Susan Sarandon. Holy cow!
I know, right? But yeah, so all in all, it was a really great experience, and I did enjoy the movie. I think I definitely got it more this time around. I don't know. I mean, the Coens have made so many great movies, so I wouldn't place it above the 2 I mentioned, or No Country for Old Men, or
I still like Oh Brother, Where Art Thou is kind of a fun. That one's a really heavy affectation. Like, you got to really you got to really buy into that. The lesser stuff I haven't really. I don't know that I ever saw. They made Burn After Reading, right?
Yes.
And I never saw Hail Caesar either.
Hail Caesar is not great, but I really like Burn After Reading. I like that one a lot.
I think this is the first. This is in the long line of Coen Brothers movies, where the hero is just some put upon loser who kind of makes his own problems. Mm-hmm. I think it culminates with Inside Llewyn Davis. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I can't remember what's come after that. I don't remember.
So it was Hail Caesar, Ballad of Buster Scruggs.
I never saw that one either.
And then the Macbeth movie that was just one of the Coens on it. Because at this point I believe that Ethan is not making movies anymore.
Yeah.
I think it's just Joel now.
I still don't quite get what's going on with Sam Elliott's character.
Yeah.
In The Big Lebowski, and I don't think anybody's supposed to. He's just sort of appears there. It's always fun to revisit. I think I've seen it all the way through, probably 3 or 4 times. I'll pick it up when I had something like HBO or Showtime and it popped on, I would sit and watch it. But I think it's probably their biggest cult hit. That's the one that people reference back. Sorry, this goddamn cat is distracting. For audio listeners, my cat is behind my head.
Yes.
I can't run him off because he'll just jump back up anyway.
Yeah.
Do you think what's your opinion of Philip Seymour Hoffman in the movie?
I like him. I mean, I think it's not a very big role. But I do love, there is a scene where he's just laughing at what is he laughing at? God, I can't remember, where someone's saying something inappropriate and he's just laughing. Do you remember that?
I don't remember off the top of my head.
I just saw the movie. I should be able to remember this.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a stacked cast too. Jeff Bridges, didn't even mention Steve Buscemi. Julie, God damn it, what's her name?
Julianne Moore?
Julianne Moore, yes. Tara Reid in a small role.
Mm-hmm.
Peter Stormare, again. Philip Seymour Hoffman. Yeah, it's just I enjoy it quite a bit.
Yeah, it was a good one to revisit, and one that I'm glad that is like in my consciousness now. You know, having been like the one thing where I was like, oh, I've only seen that once. I don't really know it very well, and now I feel like I do.
Yeah, cool.
And so it is showing one more time. So on Thursday, April 20th, there's going to be another 2 screenings of it. It's like, I think at like 7 and 9 here locally, or 7 and 10 or something like that. So if you go to fathomevents.com, you can find the theater near you that's playing them and check it out.
Yeah, 25th anniversary. Jesus, time flies.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Anything else before we move on to reviews?
No, let's do it.
All right.
Here are this week's reviews.
First up, we have Renfield.
Would you like to introduce yourself to the group?
I'm the Prince of Valacia. Some call me the Dark One. Others, the Lord of Death. However, to most, I am known simply as
Renfield's boss.
I am Dracula.
Okay, obviously we're dealing with a little bit more than just narcissism here.
Sorry I didn't get to see the clip, but, it's Universal. And
Yeah, we don't mess with that anymore.
Anyway, this is the story of Renfield, who is more commonly known as Dracula's private assistant. I guess not private assistant, but, whatever.
His familiar.
Familiar, yeah. Anyway, Cody, tell us about Renfield and what you thought of it.
Sure. So, so it's interesting because, like, I was reading a little bit about kind of like the history of Renfield, and it is something that I believe that this was originally spawned from like what was supposed to be the Dark Universe.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because the Wikipedia kind of mentions that Dracula was supposed to be part of the a part of the Dark Universe, and then
right. Then the Mummy sucked, and
then the Mummy sucked, and then Universal kind of shifted away from the universe. So I don't know if that's where this kind of thing started from, or it's just maybe it's mentioned, but it was a pitch from Robert Kirkman, and he has the story credit in it, and Kirkman is kind of like known, I guess, now for The Walking Dead mostly, right. And so what you get is kind of, I suppose, like a modernized take on the Dracula story, but told in sort of a comedy way, I guess. It is kind of oddly straightly played at times for the movie that it is purporting to be, but it's a movie about how it's told through the lens of like Renfield, played by Nicholas Hoult, is going to like a support group for people who are codependent and in kind of like abusive relationships, and he is looking to escape his relationship with Dracula, played by Nicolas Cage, and And as he starts to find his independence, Dracula grows more and more pissed. And then somehow like a parallel story here with like the mob and a cop starts to develop. and it's kind of like we're getting two separate movies here at one point where, you know, you've got this sprawling story about like Nicholas Hoult trying to get away from Nicolas Cage while also being chased as like hunted as like a serial killer by the police.
Jesus fucking Christ!
while the mom is like tangentially involved in all of this. So, you know, I think that I'm sure that this evolved from a premise of, hey, what if Nic Cage was Dracula?
Yes.
And then that's where they started, and then they tried to build around that, and in this case, unsuccessfully. It is kind of odd how little Nicolas Cage is in this movie. I think he's only in the movie I would say maybe 30% of the movie.
Maybe. I mean, yeah, for a movie that, you know, the hook is Nicolas Cage is playing Dracula.
Yeah.
In what is, I think, was sold to us as a comedy, he is very much a bit player.
Yes. And he only really ever interacts at length with Nicholas Hoult. Like, he has like a couple of scenes with Ben Schwartz. I don't does he even interact with Awkwafina at any point? Maybe towards the end.
I honestly don't know if they share like a scene together.
Yeah. And so really it's kind of like, it's very heavily edited, and you can tell there's a lot of like ADR off screen that happens. The sort of like dueling narratives never really kind of coalesce, and it's and it kind of feels a little bit off because there's like a love story that's kind of wedged in here, and amongst other things, you have Nicholas Hoult, who I think is trying, and I give him credit for that. But then you have like some over the top stuff from Ben Schwartz, who I think I generally like a lot, and I think that there are some funny things that he does, but then he's kind of faced with some not great stuff. And
oh man, and
then Awkwafina, who I think is I think she feels comfortable in comedy mode and uncomfortable in any other mode within this movie here.
I don't think she does. She doesn't really do anything funny.
Oh, she gets loud. That's her.
Yeah, but I mean, like, it's not like she's the straight man.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody's a straight man, I guess, to Nicolas Cage,
right? Who isn't even really that over the top. Like, he's doing his typical like ham it up kind of thing, but it's only in like small spurts, and it's in his like line delivery and pronunciation, like sort of like if you've seen like Bad Lieutenant, Port of Call in New Orleans, where he just makes a fucking meal out of every single line. It's not to that degree. It's kind of a boring, straightforward performance until he decides to like throw some, Nicolas Cage mustard on it and kind of make it weird. But then it kind of veers into like some unexpectedly involved fight sequences that happen throughout the movie, and then it's kind of all undone, even though there's maybe some like decent choreography here and there with like really bad looking like CGI blood splatter that I think looks really fake. And then the fight scenes go for comedy too, with just like kind of over the top violence, and I don't think ever really connect. So I don't know what's going on here. It's very weird. It can't seem to land on a tone, which is a theme of today's show, which we'll revisit a little bit later. But I think like it just isn't funny. It isn't, and I think that's its biggest sin, is that this is very clearly not designed to be a straightforward Dracula tale, but yet it's so boring that the stuff that makes it different is just like who gives a shit plot elements that don't amount to anything. So I don't know what they're going for here.
I violently hated this movie. And for a lot of people and a lot of reviews I'm reading, they seem to be kind of overjoyed at the Nicolas Cage aspect of it, which I get, and that's kind of the appeal of this late period Nicolas Cage, is, you know, watching him be as kind of batshit as he can be in these big roles. The thing is, I think the only time this movie elicits any kind of honest laughter is the very beginning, where you have Nicholas Hoult and Nicolas Cage inserted into the old Bela Lugosi Dracula. Mm-hmm. Like if the movie had kept that tone, maybe it would have been redeemable. But as it stands right now, it's like you said, and I think I messaged this to you after I got out of the screening, because I saw the screening and you saw it, I guess, a couple days later.
Yeah,
it was played fucking almost completely straight, and by the time like Awkwafina's character shows up, it's off the rails, like way too serious, taking this road down this other plot line that doesn't really ever quite intersect.
Yeah, it's very disjointed.
And it is edited to shit. Like, there's clearly story elements that have been left. Because first, like, there's a fight scene in a nightclub or something where Awkwafina's character is introduced to Nicholas Holt's Renfield, and Ben Schwartz's character gets what I would assume would be fatally stabbed in the neck, and he's fine moments later. It's just this weird kind of like, this thing is cut to hell. It doesn't make any sense from one thing to another. The fight scenes are like Marvel level choreographed, and I guess they're supposed to be played for laughs.
Yeah.
There's an inordinate amount of gore, of like CGI blood, which in the story that it's telling isn't funny. Like, if this thing was trying to be a comedy, which I believe it was, again, sold as a comedy, everything we've seen about it, because like, oh, what if 2023 Nicolas Cage played Dracula? Like, the code word for that is it's going to be funny and it's going to be fucking weird. And I don't think it's either of those things.
Yeah.
It's just too straightforward, and it's too disjointed, and it's just, like you said, it's just fucking boring.
Yeah.
Like, and you know, maybe Ben Schwartz is having fun. Some of the lines he delivers are some of the most embarrassing shit I've ever heard said on a screen. Like, when he's having to talk about, like, oh, like when he has to say with a straight face that he's now Dracula's familiar, like, it just sounded stupid.
Yeah.
And his death is, I guess, supposed to be highly comical, and it just lands with a fucking dull thud.
Yeah.
I mean, this movie sucks.
Yeah, and again, like, just from a storytelling perspective too, like, I really do not like the framing device of the support group. I think that is also played for laughs and doesn't
yeah. And spoiler alert, they're all brutally murdered at one point.
Yes.
Just to be completely undone later. Yeah. The tone, like, yeah, this tone is so all over the place. If it stuck with like this dark, macabre comedy and maybe just ran with it, like, maybe it would have been okay. But as it stands right now, it's not funny. It's played too straight, and it feels like it's hacked to shit. And man, what a waste of a premise. Like, Nicolas Cage is playing Dracula. Cool. I'll see it. All right. Make it funny, make it weird, whatever. Right now, it's nothing. It's just he's Dracula, and he's in it for maybe 20 minutes of screen time. Mm-hmm. Maybe.
Yeah.
Oh man, this movie sucked so bad. Anyway, Cody, what's your grade for Renfield?
Yeah, so I'm giving it a C-. It's disjointed. It's not nearly as funny as it needs to be. It's not nearly as weird as it needs to be. It feels like there's multiple narratives going on at the same time that don't ever coalesce. It's just not a good movie.
Yeah, I'm giving it a D-. I fucking hated this movie. I left the movie angry. It's one of the rare times I leave a movie like, man, fuck this thing. I've cooled on it a little bit because I was going to give it an F, but
wow,
I really did not like this movie. And it's totally bombing at the box office. So at least there's a little bit of justice there. So
sure.
Anyway, let's move on to our next movie, Mafia Mamma.
I have terrible news. Your grandfather is dead.
I don't even know him.
They want me to fly to Rome tomorrow night.
Kristen, what do you masturbate to?
Italian cooking shows.
You've masturbated this fantasy into existence.
You have to go.
What did my grandfather do?
What the fuck is going on?
My dying wish is that you, Mudblood, take over the Balbano family.
You know what? I am not a boss. Especially not in a mafia kind of way.
If the boss says you are the boss, you're the boss now.
How are we supposed to appear strong when she is this?
You can't run away from your destiny. I'm Donna Balbano, and I brought a little something special for everybody today. Ta-da! I made muffins!
Buckle up, people. It doesn't get better. This is a comedy wherein Toni Collette, who is, I will say, a great actress.
Yes.
Liked her in a whole bunch of stuff. The Sixth Sense, Knives Out, Little Miss Sunshine, some other stuff I'm sure I'm missing.
Hereditary. She's fucking.
I didn't see Hereditary, but
really?
I never did. I even liked a show she had on Showtime for a while, United States of Terror.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, this is a comedy wherein she's an American woman who becomes the boss of an Italian crime family.
Yeah.
Cody, tell us about Mafia Mamma and what you thought of it.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's basically the most sitcom-y premise of a movie you could possibly think of, in which, like you said, an American woman who is kind of like a put-upon woman who gets cheated on in the first few scenes, gets word that her estranged grandfather, who she's never met, well, I guess that's not true, who she hasn't seen in since she was a baby, passed away, and she must go to Italy to attend the funeral and attend to his business, as they say. And she finds out that he was the head of a crime family, and his last wish was that her, an American woman who he has not seen in many years.
She's Italian born, to be fair.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is taking over as the mob boss, and so it's a classic fish out of water story, and it is such a weird movie for so many reasons. We talked a little bit earlier about tonal issues. In this movie, boy, does it have tone issues, because as you can hear from the premise, it is a very almost laughably ridiculous sitcom premise, and in large part, the fish out of water elements are played up. But for every scene of like fish out of water goofiness, there is like brutal murders, so there's comedy that's juxtaposed with like Toni Collette like using her high heel to gouge a guy's eye out and like stab his dick into nothing. And I'm glad you prefaced by saying that Toni Collette is a great actress, because she is. This is one of the, and again, she's a great actress. It might be one of the worst performances by a Oscar caliber actor that I've seen in quite some time. It is a, for better or worse, she is all in on this performance, and it is a gigantic performance where she is loud and obnoxious and like ridiculously responding to everything, very over the top, very expressive, reactionary, like the definition of like a wine mom, like on screen, where she is just giving it all, and it just does not work on any level, and it's almost sad to see such a great actress. It's not entirely her fault, because the script is garbage, but she's not doing it any favors either. And so it's a confounding performance. It isn't funny. I'm surprised that the clips don't include this script's favorite line, which is talking about this being her eat, pray, fuck, which
it may have the clip may have it. I just cut it off halfway through because it was the red band trailer.
Yeah. So that's like the whole idea behind this whole thing was that she's like going to Italy to eat and have sex with Italian men, which is done in a storyline that just that's ridiculous from its get-go, and then manages to get even more ridiculous as it goes along. It is sort of the world is sort of populated with ridiculous side characters. Her best friend is a caricature who is like she's like a lawyer, but she's just like supporting her in her eat, pray, fuck. You have as I mentioned to you, there's the actor Dean Winters must have passed on the husband role because it seemed like it was written exactly for him.
Who played that? Because it was originally, from what I'm reading, it was originally supposed to be Rob Hubel.
Okay, that makes sense too, I guess.
Like an actual comedic. I mean, I don't want to shit on the guy who played him just because I don't know who it is.
Yeah.
I can't remember the character's name even.
I think it's Tim Daesh. Is that him?
Oh yeah, Tim Daesh. Yeah. So apparently Rob Hubel was originally cast in that role, and I don't know what happened.
Well, he dodged a bullet. And
I mean, I don't think Rob Hubel's turning down too many roles.
No, that's true. But it's just this very confused. Like this thing just cannot land on a tone. Like in 1 second, it feels like it's meant to be like a romantic comedy that's like her with this Italian guy getting away from her husband, and then on the other it's supposed to be like this fish out of water, oh my god, what's happening? And in the other it's like a mob movie that like gets bogged down in like details of territories and like gets violent every so often with like shootouts and again, like I said, stabbings and stuff like that. And like, you know, there's instances of her like multiple times like accidentally killing people and accidentally becoming a scary threat. And by the end of it, when she is like turning it into like an enterprise where she's like making the wine front actually good and giving back with prescription medication, I'm like, what the fuck is going on? What is this? And it is just like, it is such an inept, like weird misfire. Like just the whole presence of it all it's just so strange. And I don't know who this movie is for, because if it was designed for the, oh my god, it's a woman who is infiltrating this male-based thing, and it's like a female empowerment type thing, it's gonna miss on that, and it's gonna miss it, if for no other reason than it's like brutally violent at times. And if you're into like mob movies or something like that, it's a caricature of that and so many like Italian stereotypes that there's just so many of them. So this is just a very baffling movie that is not funny at all. And feels like, we talked a little bit about how, like last week, the idea that Paint felt like an SNL sketch that was extended, and that's very much what this feels like. It feels like a sketch or like a fake trailer that is like a full-length movie.
I could see that. I mentioned to you that it felt to me like kind of some zany European comedy. Like it's not quite hitting, like it's meant for a different audience. And it's a very American-made movie. Catherine Hardwicke directed it, who, of course, directed 13 back when she made good movies and then made Twilight and some other stuff. But really, it seems like it's supposed to be a farce. And I don't know that like, if you don't pull it off a farce, I think this is what you end up with, is just this massive shit. Like it's probably how it was sold. Like, here's this farce. Like, it's this American woman was cheated on and kind of, is there a female term for cuckolded? Is it just cuckolded? I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's a non-gender specific term.
Okay. I thought it was meant specifically for the male. But anyway, and that she goes to kind of reclaim her life and becomes a mafia boss in the process, but it's just played for laughs all the way through. and all this farcical stuff happens. And it does, but it just doesn't work. Like, all this stuff just lands, again, with a fucking thud, just like with Renfield. Like, none of it's funny. None of it's particularly shocking. Like, it's comically violent. The Italian stereotypes are, like, super thick. I mean, it's almost, I guess it's offensive. I'm not Italian, and I have no idea. Like, if you were Italian, this might be offensive to you. Like, if you were like from Italy, Italian, like this might be very offensive to you. I don't think any character comes out of this like okay. Yeah. I mean, Toni Collette is doing her goddamnedest to make this work and to sell it, but I just think it's too much. It's all just too much.
Do you agree with the assessment that she is bad in the movie?
I don't like,
because I don't think it's a good performance. Even given all of the details of it, I still think that it just does not work.
I think it's the exact performance she was directed to give and meant to give. I think, yes, it's bad, but it's like crafty. It's like, it's a well done bad performance, if that makes sense. Like, I mean, I go back to Nicolas Cage. Like, he's selling he's bringing exactly what's being sold. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what Toni Collette is doing here. Like, she's bringing exactly what's being sold. That it turned into something terrible, I don't think it makes it a bad performance, in other words. It's bad, but like, it's not like she's phoning it in or anything, or I don't know. That's a good question, and I don't think I have a good answer for it. I think maybe it's a lot of goodwill on her part that's making it not come across as a bad performance. But this movie sucks. I mean, it's just not good, and it's stupid, and it's I guess offensive. I don't know. I think it's maybe a little too over the top to be like directly offensive, but man, this movie is a fucking it's a mess. It's a piece of shit.
Yeah.
Anyway, what's your grade for Mafia Mamma, Cody?
Well, I did toy with, like, you gave Renfield in almost a gentleman's F, but I'm gonna give it one tick higher, and I'm gonna give it a D. It is a bad movie. It's just a total misfire, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm going to give it a D also. It is one of those movies that is genuinely not for anyone.
Right.
Like, I don't know who is going to this and saying like, oh, hey, like, is it for women? I don't think so. Is it for Mafia movie fans? Certainly not. Is it for like people looking for this sort of redemption adventure with a comedy twist? Like, I guess no. It's just a bad movie. Anyway, let's go and move on to our last movie, How to Blow Up a Pipeline.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Boom Talk. Today, teaching myself to make a homemade blasting cap.
And if this works, it'll be step one in making our own improvised explosive.
Might be headed to Texas for the winter. What's in Texas? Just a project. What kind of project?
Try to stop the pipeline from being built on my property. Poisons the air, water.
Damn, this place is sick. You guys cooking meth in here?
Ready to start working?
We have to show how vulnerable the oil industry is by hitting something big.
Michael, what do you think the odds are we blow ourselves up?
I don't really care.
I didn't see this, Cody, but you did. So tell us about How to Blow Up a Pipeline and what you thought of it.
Sure. So this movie is interesting in that it is like a fictionalized version of a nonfiction book that came out a couple of years ago. Mm-hmm. So basically, the book was called How to Blow Up a Pipeline, and it is essentially like an argument for like the sort of like it's sort of like radicalism of like environmental like climate change activism.
Right.
So it argues basically that it like in order to see change, you need to escalate into sabotage, and it like it's as I was reading on the Wikipedia page, it sort of argues the idea that it's criticizing pacifism and saying that in order to make change, like you have to start, vandalizing or blowing up pipelines in this case. And so it is a fictionalized version of that where the movie features a group of climate activists who, for a variety of different reasons, are coming into this situation of trying to blow up a pipeline in order to basically, cause an effect in the oil supply, to collapse the oil system, at least momentarily, to make a point about like the dependence on oil and so on and so forth. And so they develop a plan, and then they figure out, each person has a particular job within it, and then they get together for a weekend and try to execute the job. So the movie kind of plays out like a heist movie, basically, where, you're seeing them building and preparing, and then, the last like half hour is them like executing the plan, and then, seeing all the things that go wrong and so on and so forth. And so that is intersposed with flashbacks that show how all of its main characters arrived to where they are now. So it's giving them a little bit of background of like, where their climate activism came from and how it kind of escalated into like maybe like a radicalized view of that. Though the movie doesn't really treat it as becoming radicalized. It more treats it like the next step in order to see action. So I will say, as a movie, it's really well done. It's like the heist element, really ratchets up the tension. It does a really good job. I really like the way that it's constructed, in that, it kind of shows you what's going on and then kind of fills in the details of how each person got there. So you get to know the characters through the flashbacks. It's interesting storytelling, as like there are a couple of twists and turns in there that are legitimately surprising. And then as the movie finally comes together in like one of its final scenes where you actually see the motives of everyone involved. So as a movie, it's really good. I am interested to see what kind of reception the movie gets, because it is, again, like in a way almost advocating for this type of action. Not necessarily serving as a blueprint, but like serving as an argument for, the escalation. Like the movie doesn't necessarily take the character's side of like what their justification is, but the movie exists for a reason, right? It's showing, this type of thing. Right. And it does go out of its way to show like, when they're doing it, they're actually like shutting off the oil supply and just blowing up the pipeline so they don't have any kind of oil leaks or anything else that could harm anyone. They're not trying to harm anyone either. They're trying to, mess with the supply line and the supply chain. So, I'm interested to see kind of like the reaction and response to it. I know that people have been critical of the book, and certainly Armand White wrote a scathing review of the movie, so that's a badge of honor, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think it is an interesting thing. Like I said, it's not like meant to be like an instruction manual by any means, but it is a really taut, well-made, independent thriller that has at least something to ponder. Right. I mean, it's like gives you something to chew on, even if it's not trying to force its viewpoints on you. So, I think that it's a really solid movie that like, if you can at least get on board with the premise of it all, I think you'll find it, taut and entertaining.
All right. What's your grade for How to Blow Up a Pipeline, Cody?
I give it a B+. It's very, very solid.
Cool. All right. That's going to do it for this week. Next week, Cody, it is a packed week. I'm not sure how much we're going to get to cover.
Yeah. Well, I know. So we'll go. Let's go through the stuff we know we're going to cover,
okay.
Which is we're covering Beau is Afraid, the Ari Aster 3-hour epic.
I am afraid of Beau is Afraid.
Yeah, which we're seeing on Tuesday. I believe we've both agreed to also do Evil Dead Rise as well.
Yes. I'm really. I missed the premiere at South by. I've heard nothing but positive things. Again, out of a festival, so
yeah.
Grain of salt, but I'm a fan of the Evil Dead series.
Yeah. And then from there, we'll see if we can land on something else. I mean, the other movies that are opening are Guy Ritchie's The Covenant, starring Jake Gyllenhaal.
Mm-hmm.
We have Chevalier, the Fox Searchlight movie with Kelvin Harrison. We also have Somewhere in Queens, Ray Romano's feature film directorial debut that he's also in and wrote. And then we have Ghosted, the Apple TV movie with Chris Evans and Ana de Armas. So we will from that group we will cover. I mean, I'm going to see most of these, so I'll be able to cover them on my own, and then you can jump in wherever you want.
Yeah. I'm just packed this week in a 3-hour epic that is getting that's being called purposefully off-putting is a big roadblock in my way. I really am looking forward to Evil Dead Rise because I am a fan of the series, and I'm. Were you a fan of the Jane Levy Evil Dead from 2013?
So here's a fun fact: the only Evil Dead I've ever seen is when we saw it in the woods.
Oh.
So I've only ever seen Evil Dead 2, and it was at that screening in the woods. So
with Bruce Campbell in attendance.
With Bruce Campbell, yeah.
So that is a weird starting point, I will admit.
I might try to watch them through this week.
I mean, I think we've talked about them 1,000 times.
Yeah.
The first one's pretty played straight. The second one is where it gets to the comedy.
But it's like a parody of the first one, right?
Right. And then Army of Darkness. Army of Darkness is my favorite because it's so off and different. I was a fan of the Evil Dead remake, which was supposed to be like some sort of backdoor sequel. Because at the very end you get Bruce Campbell makes a cameo appearance, like a post-credits thing.
Mm-hmm.
But they never took it anywhere. It went to Ash versus Evil Dead, which was, I never finished that series.
Okay. Yeah.
I haven't seen the third season of it, but it apparently had a major showrunner shift and was not as great the last season. But anyway, I'm curious about this one. I don't think it's connected to anything at all, other than maybe the premise.
I believe that is true, because I think that this is also separate from the reboot,
right? As
well.
Yeah, because
and it's also separate from Ash versus Evil Dead, I think.
Right. Yeah. So this was plans for a sequel. This was something new. There was going to be a sequel to that Evil Dead from 2013, and then connected to Ash versus Evil Dead, which I think most fans would have probably liked, but I think there's just a mess of rights issues there.
It is very weird that this that Warner Brothers seems to be protecting this movie when it had such a raucous South by screening, in that it's not screening here, it's not screening in Austin, and it's not screening in Houston, as far as I know.
Yeah, I don't know. It's strange. Because I don't know who, I don't know anybody that saw it at South by personally, but that's where the famous Bruce Campbell telling the guy to get the fuck out, happened. But yeah, I don't know. It's weird. I am looking forward to it, but I am kind of puzzled why it didn't screen, because I believe I saw Evil Dead at a screening 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, lots
of stuff.
I don't know if I'll have time to catch up on it. If I do, the NHL playoffs are starting this week, so
look, don't bother. If it's not connected, don't bother.
Yeah, you're probably right. I can see the visual references and the trailer that I can pick up on. So,
but you've seen a Sam Raimi movie,
right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, if you've seen Drag Me to Hell, that's basically almost an Evil Dead movie that's not an Evil Dead movie.
I haven't.
It's a really great movie. Yeah, it's a really great movie. I think it was his first post Spider-Man movie. Kind of his palate cleanser. Anyway, if you want to reach us, you can email us at podcast@cinesnob.net. Find us on Twitter @cinesnob, Facebook cinesnobnet, youtube.com/cinesnob. Cody, got anything else before we go?
No, just the Ramble. I'm, making appearances when I can. Things have been super busy lately, but you can find Ramble Radio Tuesday, Friday, regular Ramble on Wednesday.
Got the NHL playoffs, Cody.
NHL playoffs, Dallas Stars, Game 1 tomorrow night. They're poised for a run, so we'll see.
Yeah, I can't say that I know anything about it, but
that's all right.
Anyway, on that note, I'm Jerrod Kingery.
I'm Cody Vifania.
Thank you for listening to the CineSnob Podcast. To read reviews, interviews, and more, visit CineSnob.net. See you next week.